Welcome back to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm Joey Dwyer here at Memorial Gymnasium. About an hour ago, right behind me, Mark Byington, the former James Madison coach, was introduced as Vanderbilt basketball's head coach, and I think the overwhelming response to his introduction is that he won the press conference. I think he was a sight for sore eyes, and I think my overwhelming takeaway today is that Mark Byington gets it. He gets what this program is about, what it needs to be about, and what it's been lacking for a long time. And I think he didn't quite say he knows what it's been lacking, but I think he was well aware of what Vanderbilt fans want out of this program and what they haven't seen for a while. I think really what stood out to me was just that he got it. He gets where this program is, he gets where it needs to go, he gets the expectation for it, and he gets how to get there and how to have people behind him. He talked a lot today about this being about the fans, this not being about him. He talked about getting the former players involved, and all that stuff I think is really helpful at a place like Vanderbilt. What I really took away, I think, is the way he wasn't shying away from high expectations. He said something along the lines of, we expect to win soon, our expectation is to win this year. And I don't know that he was saying that they're going to make a tournament next year or anything of the sort, but he's going to do everything in his power to get a portal class that can make this team competitive. And it feels like, man, if he is able to sell to recruits the way he was able to sell to the fan base today, he's going to have a really easy time getting guys in. He said as much. He said, this is a place where guys are going to want to come, and I think Vanderbilt for a long time has struggled to recruit at the level of other SEC teams, and I'm not saying they're going to recruit at the level of other SEC teams. They just came off a 9-win season. They obviously have hurdles that other schools don't, but with Byington at the helm, it feels like they've got a chance to do some things they haven't been able to since the Bryce Drew era on the recruiting trail. I think they had one good class under Stack, but generally the recruiting wasn't where it needed to be, and Byington gets that you're not going to be able to live. That's no way to live in college basketball. And I think he said a lot about his system today. I asked him, what is a staple of a Mark Byington team? And he's pretty quick to the trigger there. He said, we're going to play hard, we're going to be tough, and they're going to play as hard as they're capable of playing. He also said it's going to be fun, fast-paced, and entertaining. He said they're going to play their hearts out for the fan base. And I think, is there a better way to answer that question? I'm not sure, but I think Mark Byington found pretty close to the perfect recipe for that. He said it's positionless, which we had talked about on podcasts previously. He said they're going to get up and down, and I don't know that their team's going to execute this all the time, but their aim is that they're going to play harder than the other team, they're going to defend, they're going to guard, and they're going to be able to put guys in space. And I think a lot of the recruiting pitch has already been made to the current players. I think Tyler Tanner said today that he'll be coming back or something along those lines. I would expect him to stick with Vanderbilt. I'm not sure about the other two commits. But you look at the presser today, and there's a lot of guys who were in the gym today that are in the portal. Paul Lewis was there, Colin Smith was there, Jason Rivera-Torres was there, and then obviously Carter Lang, Jordan Williams, Colson Messer, Isaiah West were also there, and not to mention Tyron Lawrence, who's also in the portal. So I think there was ears to hear what Mark Byington had to say today, and I think he conveyed his message pretty well. Another thing too, he's not only saying these things about the fan base and getting them engaged. The fans were here, and I think they filled up pretty much all the way up to 2F. There's some empty rows and such, but it felt like it was generally pretty full, a generally pretty good turnout for Mark Byington. And I think you just have more excitement for where this program is going after today. You have people of influence texting me saying that's the guy that Vanderbilt needs, and I think maybe he doesn't work out, who knows, but it feels like his energy and his blueprint is exactly what Vanderbilt needs at this point of its rebuild, and he's not scared of a rebuild. I think he said as much throughout the presser. I think it was Joe Sullivan who asked him, like, you've rebuilded tough programs, or maybe it was somebody from the news, and they asked him what's the key to that, and he said, well, I can't coach bad players. I'm not good enough to do that. So he knows that he has to go get good players, and he has to be able to turn this thing, and that's, again, what is it, a sight for sore ears, or a word for sore ears, something along those lines. Mark Byington today, I think, won that press conference, and it's hard to find somebody who would dispute that now. There's a huge difference between winning the press conference and winning games in February and March and winning games in the non-conference slate, but Mark Byington, I think, did as much as he could today. I think he was really personable with people. I think he was pretty open about wanting to get to know this fan base and wanting to get to know the people in it. And as far as I've known, he has actually done that, and he's followed up on that. People know this guy. People have met this guy, and people who didn't connect with the previous staff have already connected with him. He said he wants to have his staff done in the next week or two. Again, good sense of urgency there to hit the portal hard. Another thing that I thought was interesting about James Madison, somebody asked him, is James Madison going to have guys coming with you? And he said, I wouldn't be surprised if there are guys who come with, or something along those lines. And I think Terrence Edwards is the guy that you got to start this thing with. That's a guy who could legitimately be an all-SEC guy in some form in the next year or two, or I guess the next year, but he's got to be a guy that's at the top of their list. And I think even you've seen on lists in the last few days, Vanderbilt's starting to pop up a little more. They're really making a go of this thing on the recruiting trail, and it's easy to see why guys would want to come play here, not only because of what he was saying, but just because of his overall demeanor, just because of the enthusiasm he had about turning this program. I can almost guarantee you that there's going to be guys who want to be a part of this, and I know of guys who want to be a part of this. I don't know if Vanderbilt wants them to be a part of it, but there's guys who are going to buy in here, and I think a lot of the guys that were in attendance today who are in the portal currently, they have a chance to retain. Byington said all the ones who have put their names in the portal I've communicated with, and some are open to coming back. Again, I think at this stage, I don't know if there's much, obviously he's only 4 days on the job, but I don't know if there's much else that you could ask from him at this stage of his job. And another thing too, along the lines of what we were talking about with the fan base earlier, a word that kept popping up is unite, and I think he wants people behind him, and he wants to know those people, he wants to invest in those people, and that's how you get people behind you. I think the previous staff didn't do a great job of that, but Byington's starting to figure out what this program needs to be about and how you unite that fan base. He said, I want to build relationships in the community and with the fans. He started to do that really well today. But again, I think the style really stands out to me today. I think the expectation level from him and just his get-it-ness, I think really stood out to me today. He talked to Will Purdue on the phone for an hour yesterday, and he talked a lot about forming guys outside of basketball, and I think that's, again, something that at times has lacked in the past with this program. Obviously, you can say all this, you got to do it, but I think Mark Byington has done just about all he can at this point to win over this fan base and show them what he's about and show them that he's about the right things. He even mentioned that he needs his players to be about the right things, and I think so far you've seen that. You're going to see this program have some turnover, but you're also going to see, I think, a little more retention than I originally would have thought. But yeah, I think Candace Lee also had some nice things to say about fit today. She did say that there was a lot of opportunity, or a lot of interest in the opening as a whole, which I thought was interesting, and I think we can pretty much confirm that. But Byington was the one that she gravitated towards. I think she opened up her press conference saying, with us, not with everybody else, but saying, when I like something, I tend to gravitate towards it over and over again. And I think that's what happened with Mark Byington. That wasn't the name that really popped up a whole lot, but I think Candace Lee always had Mark Byington in the back of her mind. And Daniel Diermeyer, I think, gave her some flexibility here based on what they were saying, to do things how she wanted to do them, and Mark Byington was what she wanted. And I think another thing that stands out to me about Candace Story Lee today, Mark Byington went out of his way today to say that Vanderbilt is invested here. Obviously the facility is something. Candace Lee went out of her way to mention NIL as well. So I think this is the most optimism I've had in a long time. And obviously it's the introductory presser. Everybody's gonna have optimism at this time, but this is the most optimism I've had in a while that Vanderbilt has gotten this thing right and that there's a path to sustainable success here. Obviously there's gonna be some nights where I'm talking to you here and I'm saying Mark Byington's messages didn't get through tonight, or they lost to a team they shouldn't have lost, or they lost in a way they shouldn't have lost. That's not going to be negated here. But the overall direction of this thing, I think, is in a better spot than it has been in a while. And you're going to start to see that in the coming weeks as they get commitments in and such. But it feels like they're on a path here, and I think his system is one that really plays. He also mentioned that there's guys here who didn't do a whole lot last year that could do more in his system. And I thought that was really interesting, because I was under the assumption, I still kind of am, that you're going to need a complete roster overhaul here. but it does seem that he's open to having this roster and maybe having some of those guys play different roles and seeing if he can unlock them. And that's what coaching is all about. Again, he said, I can't win with bad players, but I think he's thinking that he has some pieces here and he can get some of the portal to kind of supplement them to where he could have a competitive team next year. And it's interesting to hear that early, but I think he really believes it and he thinks they've got a chance here. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you to the Wash House for sponsoring our basketball content this season and sponsoring the coaching search. But we'll be back with more stuff soon. I'm sure Billy and I will get on soon and discuss everything. But for now, thank you guys for watching. It's a little rapid reaction, and I'll be at baseball in a few, and we'll have some stories up on the site tonight. So be sure to follow along, and thank you guys for watching again. God bless. Peace.